Hey guys, I want to show you the phase that we're in right now. I've had the body sides on, I've taken them off, I've put them on, I've done a lot of different things to make them fit to where I'm happy. I'm getting ready to take them off, but I've got them marked where they're going to go back on the exact way that they're on right now. And I wanted to show you where I'm at and how I got to this point. I put the entire car together. I put the frames on, I fit the quarter panels, I put the doors on it, I put the roof on it, I put the front fenders on and the new hood. I wanted to do that to make sure that the fitment, everything looked straight, everything was lining up as good as I could get it. I think it's easier to take a car that has never been cut apart or done anything to do stuff like this. And I want to show you a couple things that I did to help line this up. I'm going to show you a couple measurements that I used. Now I want to tell you this, don't use my measurements as gospel. I'm confident in what I've done, and I think that the car is going to be fitting together and lining up very, very well. But if you are trying to do this at home or someone else is trying to do this work, I would say double check your measurements. Go get your own research, measure an original car if you need to be confident, because once you weld it, it's final. You can't take it back apart. And then I'll show you the steps of welding it and then each phase as we go along. I don't know if we'll do this video from start to finish with the body done, or I might break it up in sections. There is a mark up under here. And this is what I'm talking about here. So we've got the front section of the rocker, and it comes down, and you see this small cutout. So this small cutout, there's also a small cutout on the inner rocker, and I've got that fit as pretty good as I can. That is the mark that I use there to get my alignment for front to back. There's another spot here, the outer rocker and the inner rocker, where it folds over. The inner rocker's here and it folds over. You can see the metal right here. These two pieces need to be flush this way. If this is too far back, it's going to push the wheel well out. If this is too far forward, then you're going to have a big lip here and nothing to weld to. So that's another way to set up the rockers front to rear, is by this rear rocker right here. Now there is one more thing I want to point out. See these tabs right here on the inner rocker panel? Those tabs are for this to go up and sit on. These will help locate the rocker panel when it goes up and on. So let me show you. When you go to put those on, this part here actually rests and sits down on that. I don't know if you can see that very well. So here's with the rocker on, and you can see those little things there and there. The rocker will go in and actually help to align where it needs to sit. So Ford did a good job on having all these little pieces and things to line up. So I wanted to show that. The jack is down below to support the whole side so it doesn't fall off. They've also got these alignment holes here. This firewall had work done to it, so they're slightly off, but I'm happy with the fit. So I wanted to give you guys some measurements. And again, these are my measurements. These are what work for this car. If we look at the front crossbow here, and you look at the way the frame is notched right here, from this line to the same spot on the other side of the car, it's 43.5 inches. We come a little bit further back, we're about center of it. And for a reference, I'll try to zoom in if I can, but there's two small holes on the other side where the roof bow goes in. So from that location to this spot is 44.5 inches. So then we come back a little bit further. This is the rear cross brace. There's a small indentation right here. From this line across to the same spot on the other side is 44.25 inches. If we come down all the way to the end of the metal, and again right where the notch is, right above that, I measured straight across from that side to this side, and I came up with 41 1/4 inch. So those are my measurements from side to side. Now we're going to just make sure that we got the car level. We've got the car level, but this sheet metal itself can sit, you can have it higher on one side or the other. So we may have the frame level, but if we don't put this metal in level, we've got a problem. So visually, from when the car's put together, things aren't going to line up properly and you're going to have issues. So I've got my level here. The same spot that I used to measure on the bottom corner here, I'm going to set my level in the same locations, and I come up that it's level coming across. Again, I did have to fine tune this to make sure that this was level before I put everything together. So if we've got that level there, I'm going up to the next section, and I'm actually just going across and checking the spot at different locations. I'm going to check it up here, and then the last one that we're going to do is I'm just going to go across from where this fold is right here, and I'm going to move my level up. And then also the very last spot to check is the rear valance, to put a level on that. And this side here is going to come up just a little bit because I don't have it mounted, but we're going to just pull that up just a little bit, and then we're level. So we've got the rear valance level, we've got this upper part. Actually, I'll put a level on that. We want to make sure that that's level before we take it apart. I'll just show you guys. We're level there, and we're level there. And then also for the opening of the windshield is the same as the coupe. So when you take your car apart, it's the same exact opening as when you put the Fastback together. So make sure you take your measurements, and that's what all this stuff was here that I drew on the cowl. So now I'm just taking the car apart for the last time. The inner wheel wells coming out, the roof braces for the roof, and now the side panel is getting ready to come off. I put the side panels on a stand so I could work on them, and here I'm using a pneumatic punch that works off of compressed air. And now I'm just marking where I'm going to punch the holes, and I'm making my measurements 2 inches apart. That's going to be on the lower part of the rocker and also on the top part of the rocker. Now I'm just using the punch to make the holes. And the pneumatic punch makes quick work of putting the holes into the metal. Now I'm just making holes in the upper wheelhouse area so we can plug weld the wheelhouse. Now I've moved into the top part of the rocker panel. To drill these holes, the punch would not fit, so I had to drill it with a actual drill. If you saw me using the wood is there so that the drill bit wouldn't hit the other side of the metal to dull or break the drill bit. Here's the passenger side frame getting ready to go onto the car. I just wanted to show you how it's been prepped. The inside of the rocker has been painted black. It's got the primer on it, and then it was painted for protection. It's got the weld-through primer on it. So basically, I marked, you can see my markings with marker, but the holes are all spaced out 2 inches apart, and then I used the punch that you saw on those. Use the drill across here to do these, and these are all going to be for the plug welds for the car once this piece is put on. Also, another spot that we prepped and then drilled out the plug welds are up under here on the little dog leg that I keep talking about. then there's a small section back here. This is going to be the inside where the wheel well is, so we're going to plug weld it from the back side, so we've got some holes in there. So I just wanted to show how this has been prepped, how we're getting some paint in there to help protect that so this stays and lasts a very long time. You can see all the plug welds, ground back, ready to be welded. And then let me walk you over and show you the rocker panel, the inner rocker. And we did the same thing on that. So we've got the paint in the section just for protection, and then on the top spot and around the perimeter, it's got weld through primer. So that's going to protect it and help the longevity of the car. Now that the side panel has been prepped and ready to go on, I use a floor jack to help support the side brace and balance it. And then here I'm just trying to make sure that it fits and lines up with all the markings that I had from when I removed it. I want to make sure that it fits exactly how I had it and exactly how I want it. So I want to show you a nice little tool that actually helps expedite this and makes the plug welds a lot more consistent and repeatable. So you're not burning through, you're not having issues with it. So what it is it's this tool here, and it clamps down on the metal, which I'll do that in just a second. And then you've got this part of the welder. This just unscrews. You can screw it onto your MIG welders for a MIG welder. It's got these little legs here. All right, what that's designed to do is it keeps it away from the metal, a perfect spot. And every time you go do another plug weld, it's the same spot no matter where you do it. And if you are consistent with the amount of time that you use, your plug welds will come out pretty consistent. The other thing that's cool about this is it's designed to fit into these clamps right here. So when you go to put it on, it holds it steady, and it holds it for where it needs to be. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So we're gonna clamp this down. You want to try to get it in the center of the piece that you're working on. I'm trying to do it with one hand, sorry. And then you clamp it down nice and tight. Once you have it clamped down, basically you just put your MIG welder right over the top, rest it down on top of it, and you're good to go. And if you can see that, it fills in the hole nice and complete. It's repeatable, and every one will kind of look like that. And if you get good at it consistent, you can actually make it look like factory spot welds, which is what it's kind of designed to do. But basically, everywhere you see me plug welding, if I can get this tool or a similar, let me show you another tool, or if I have body creases and something else, I'll use this one here, and it's very similar to that, but it's just to get around pieces. This is good around the trunk area and different areas like that. You know, that's what we're trying to do. We're just going to have all of our spot welds look like that. So now I'm getting set up to weld the side panels in, and I'm using that tool that I just showed you to do the plug welds. And I'm just moving along down the rocker, and I'll go back and forth on that. If you notice that I'm not wearing a mask, the tool and my hands are blocking where the light is originating from, and I'm also closing my eyes, but for safety's sake you should wear a mask. As you can see, I've got multiple sets of vice grips and clamps holding the panel in place as I move down. And then I'm using that tool that I showed you and clamping the metal together to do the final plug weld. Now I've turned my attention to the upper cowl area. The spots that I start out welding, screws are holding those sections together. But as I weld it, I'll tap down the metal around it so I can weld and move up and down the areas that need welding.
Now here I'm just shaping the metal, trying to get it into shape and back down to where it was originally, because I did have to pry this area to get that new metal to fit in there. Now that it's back to the shape I need, I'm using that same tool again to do the plug welds. This section here is as high as I can go with the clamp, and once I get this section welded, I'm going to have to start tapping down the metal as I weld it to keep it tight. And in this area you want the metal as tight as you can get it, because this is an area that overlaps and we need to seam seal it to keep water from intruding and getting down into these joints and rusting them. So that's why you see me tapping it down. I'm just getting the metal to go down as tight as I can to the metal below it so it can be welded in. Now it's time to start dressing the welds. I'll use different pads to start grinding down the welds. I'll usually start with a 36 or 40 grit just to remove the most material. Once it starts getting flat and smooth, I'll move to like 120 grit, and then you'll see me change the pad here in a second. But at this point I'm just using a 40 grit pad to break down the welds and knock the tops of them off so it will look smooth. Here I'm changing to 120 grit. This will start making the metal smoother and removing some of the deeper scratches from the heavier grit. Now I've moved to a wire wheel. The wire wheel that I'm using is a braided wire wheel. This just helps take the sanding scratches out of it, makes the metal more uniform, and kind of blends it in with the other metal around it. It's just kind of a finishing touch.
Here's our repair of the welding in of the dog leg, closing in of the upper cowl. I'll do a little more metal work, fill in a couple of these little holes here. Still have to weld in this piece here that we removed. So I'm not done yet, but I'll go back and do a little bit more metal work to make it look a little bit better. But that's good enough for now. It's solid and it's ready to go for what we're doing as far as setting the car together and doing the body work. One thing that I found on the front header bow, I guess we'll call it, this side does not sit down flush, and I'll show you why. I'm gonna have to trim back. For whatever reason, this one is longer. I'm gonna have to trim it back here. So if you can see, there's a small relief where it's supposed to sit, and for whatever reason it needs to be trimmed to fit properly. So here's the driver's side, and you can see how it sits nice and flush, and it sits in that little tiny groove, little pocket. If we go to the front side, you can see how it fits nice and flush down in here as well. So I'm going to trim the other side, and then I'm going to take this off and drill all my holes for the plug welding, and we'll get this one ready to go. Now I'm just removing that upper brace, and I'll use a cutoff wheel to cut off that small section. Now I'm using a rat tail file to sand down any burrs on the metal. Here we're drilling out the plug well holes for the upper roof brace. And again, I'm using that same rat tail file just to have the metal smooth so there's no burrs or anything that would hold it up. Both sides have the plug welds holes in them, so we can plug weld them. and across the back. You see how it sits down nice and flush for the windshield rubber, which is what we need. And then this side, we trimmed that little bit for it to sit up in that pocket. And it sits much better. We'll crimp this as we weld it as well. But now it sits down flush through here. So when we start our plug welds on this side, we'll just draw this side down, and that'll draw nice and tight. Now we're going to just take this back section off. We're going to drill out all the plug weld holes and get that ready to go on, and that's the last thing we're going to put on for this video.
And now I'm just using my grinder with 120 grit on it to deburr the metal from the drill holes.
Alright guys, so there you have it. I think we're going to just wrap it up here on this video. Basically we covered just putting the sides in. I'm not going to show welding the cross piece in the back and the cross piece up front. I think you've seen me do enough welding on this video to get the gist of what's going on, how I measured everything. The next video, what I'm going to do is we're going to work on hanging the quarter panels. So we'll hang the quarter panels, we'll put the doors on, put the quarter panels on from the doors, we'll get the trunk metal in, and then we'll get the parts that go in here and the tail pan. So the next video will cover a lot of the sheet metal, and then maybe we'll do it all in one and put the roof on and the drip rails in one video. Or I may just do a separate video as far as the roof and the drip rails. But that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you like what you're seeing. Like and subscribe. If you have any comments, please leave me some comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the progress of the car and how it's going. So see you guys soon on the next video.